Hey everybody, welcome back to Fish on Adventures. Today we're going to be installing the lights and the electrical on our little two-man bass boat. What I've got laid out here is all the components that we're going to be putting on. We're going to do it one piece at a time. That way that we can talk about each part as we go. What we have is, I didn't go buy extra wire. I had a loom of trailer wire, so I figured we'd just go ahead and use that and save some money. It really doesn't matter. We'll use the brown wire because there's two browns, and we'll use the green and the yellow as the hot wire. First thing we're going to install is the rear base. Picked this up at Academy, and it is made by Marine Raider. This is the product we'll be installing for the stern light or the anchor light. And like I said, we'll do that first. And here is the light itself. It is telescoping. I don't know if we really need that, but bought it anyway. But we kind of got some stuff laid out here. We've got waterproof, heat shrink, butt connectors, spade connectors. We got a fusible link for the 3-panel rocker switch. This is the bow lights we'll be installing. I picked these up off at Walmart.com. They did not come in a package that had the name on it, so the essential tools: crimping pliers, Phillips screwdriver, and a hole saw and a Sharpie, a pull line for pulling the cord, of course marine grade silicone. We have a heat gun and our drill, and pretty much that's everything you're going to need to do this tool wise. Well, let's do a little recap on the boat. We can get it caught up. If you remember, we started off, we did the 3.5 horsepower to 5 horsepower upgrade, and we also did the pontoon drains, the transom mount pontoon drains. So we're going to start covering how to put all the electrical wiring and everything in the pontoon so nothing's exposed. We'll be adding a rocker panel up front. We'll add the bow lights on the front and the transom light, and we're also going to put a courtesy light on the inside. So we'll get all this done, and we'll take that. And we also have, the next video will be installing the sonar, which I'm going to leave that as a surprise of what we put on it. But everything that we do on this boat, we're going to do it internally, and we're going to fish the wires. We're going to do everything rough in, and then we'll come back and we'll put all the components on it, and we'll silicone everything in to where everything's watertight. Now, if you remember, one of the things I had talked about was the pontoon drains, why I put them on, how water can get in the boat. One of the things I'll show you is when the factory puts stuff together. I've already taken the screws out of this because I'm going to use this as a way to help get the wires through the pontoons. But the rod holders, when they install these, and just like the switch or the plug for the trolling motor, they don't seal any of this stuff. So this is a really easy way for water to get into the boat and into the pontoons. So when you remove these, I really recommend that you take all the components off and put a nice bead of silicone in them along with the screws, and then reseal everything and put it all back together, and that will definitely increase or lessen the chances of you getting water in the boat. So let's get started. We'll go ahead and start with the transom light. That's going to be the hardest one, the stern light, and because we have a long pull of wire to come through the pontoon, and we're going to bring the wires hopefully out of this rod holder, and then we can have the wires here. We're going to install the rocker panel switch in this location here, so all the wiring for the front will be nice and neat up underneath the bow, and we'll only have that one long run, which would be the transom sensor for the depth sonar, and the stern lights will come up through this pontoon. So let's get started on that. Okay, the first thing we got to do is we need to determine a location. And on this boat in the back, it's tapered off, so there's really not a flat area in this location. And also the type of plug that I have, it requires the door to be opened and put in so it locks it in. So this location right here, the door's not going to swing. And I really don't think it's going to matter if the light sticks out a little bit of an angle. So I really got to determine exactly where I'm going to want this light, and I think I'm going to put it right here. Alright, let's get this hole drilled and hope for the best, because like I said, once there's a hole, there is a hole, and we're going to put it right about there and back off to make sure we have it, and we do. So, and remember, like I've said in the previous video, when we're drilling plastic, you want to go slow. Don't just try to blow through it because it will melt, and just take your time and let the hole form itself. Don't put a lot of pressure on it. And there we go. The good thing is you want to make sure this plug. If it does fall in the boat, take a vacuum cleaner, stick the hose down inside of it, and get all that out of there, because you do have your pontoon drain, and that's just going to create a nightmare. You're going to be constantly plugging up with that little thing right there. So make sure it stays in here. If it doesn't, make sure you fish it out. One thing I do have my shop back out. We're going to try to keep everything, keep as much dust out of the pontoons as we can. All right, now it's time to go fishing. Now we have to get the wire from here to the front of the boat. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a long plastic tube, and we're going to try to fish the tube through the pontoon and then pull it up just enough to get the wire connected to it, so we can pull the wire back up through the rod holder hole. So let's get that going. Okay, as you can see, what I did is I took a piece of PEX tubing. You can see I pulled, it came out the front where I had the rod holder. And what I'm going to do is use this as a pull, just like a fish tape, which I don't have here, but this stiff tubing works real good to get between the styrofoam and the pontoon and work it through. So that really didn't take that long. I didn't film it, but it didn't take that long. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a pull rope for the transom sonar cable, so we can go ahead and get the light cable in. But when we get ready to mount the transom, the sonar on the back of the boat, we'll have this pull rope in there so we can pull that cable up to the front. So we'll attach all this, we'll tape everything to the PEX. And if you've never done this before, I'm sure you have, but we will, for the interest of doing it, always tape and then pull over, lay it over and retape. And the reason why is because you can pull this wire and or your pull rope right out of your tape, and then you have to start all over again. So pull it down so there's no obstructions. Tape it on good. Go ahead and waste some tape. Don't worry about it. All right, now that's ready to pull. So what I'm going to do, we'll lay everything out so it's nice and straight. So now we'll pull that to the front. Okay, we got it. So now we'll just simply take our time. Let's make sure we don't do anything wrong. We'll pull it. And as you can see, that was not difficult at all. So now we have our wire in our pull rope. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to untape. Simply going to clip it off. I'm going to tie a knot so we don't lose it. And when we put our panel in, it'll be here, so we'll just literally have the wire right there. One thing you don't want to do is don't pull the cable tight, leave some slack in there. You never know maintenance in the future. And also, tight wire has a tendency to pull loose. Where it's laying flat, it will not pull on the connections as much. Okay, so we're going to get ready to physically put the wiring on the light. And like I said, I guess before I opened up, I'll show you what I'm using. I'm using a waterproof butt connector. These are heat shrink. When you crimp them down, you just take your heat gun, hit them, and you have a waterproof connection. The other option would be to solder the wire with heat shrink. Don't think I need to do that. So like I said, we're going to use, because the wire that we have is trailer light wire. The brown, we have a brown on every loom, so we're going to use the brown as our ground, and we'll use the yellow for the hot wire on the other side, and the green is the hot wire for the stern light. Now always pull. Make sure you pull on this to ensure that it did crimp properly. You don't want it coming apart after you're finished. Oh, and by the way, don't shrink these until you get both connections made, because if you put the heat on it, you'll shrink the other side as well. Now on these lights, you see a black, and this one is a grayish colored wire. On 12-volt systems, 99% of the time, the black wire is going to be your ground, and the color wire will be your hot wire. The only difference you would see be like on a trailer wire with a white wire is your ground wire. It's very rare that you see a different colored ground other than black on a 12-volt system, but this is the ground and this is the hot for this receptacle. So we're going to take the black wire, we'll connect it to the brown. And in this case, our green wire will be our hot wire. Okay. You can see this is shrinking, and it also has, I'm not sure if it's silicone inside, but you can see it starting to run. When it turns clear, it's fully melted, and now it is watertight. And allow it to cool till it turns blue again. You'll see it'll cloud up. This one's already cooled. This one's still hot. And as that cools, it'll turn back to its blue. It's still pretty warm. As you can see, it's starting to cool now. And some of that liquid that I talked about is squirting out the ends. So this is absolutely 100% watertight. All right, let's move on to the Bowel Lights. What we're going to do, on this little palm prowler, it has a flat area, cutout area right here. And pretty sure that's what they did that for, was the pontoon lights. But we're going to we'll go ahead and mount the base right here. And just remember, when we drill our holes, let's make sure you draw a really small hole. That way it dimples on the back side when the screw pushes through and you get a little more bite. So first thing we want to do is make sure we put a good bead of silicone on the back. And this one, I just let you know, I did take some composite spacers and built a small spacer for the back. It was just a little bit wide for the hole, so I brought it out just a little bit because this tapers out, so it fits in there nice and clean. But I will tell you, these navigation lights, they're very difficult to find, small ones. The ones that I was coming across, they were 6-7 inches long. They were huge. And they do make, Academy does have one that's a teardrop shape, would fit in this area really clean, or you could mount it up here on top of the bow like I've seen people do on the Pelicans. But I wanted to utilize this space right here. It's a really nice clean area for the light, kind of tucks it out of the way. So we're going to take advantage of that spot right there. Now remember, put a good bead of silicone, let it squirt out. That way you get a good tight seal, and you just wipe off the extra. Okay. There's the base. Got a little extra of that silicone. And now what we're going to do is drill a hose for the wire. Now I don't have the rocker panel cut out yet. So what we'll do is we'll just put a little extra wire and we'll stuff it in here. When we cut the hole, we'll be able to, it should be just laying right there. Kind of elongated the hole for a reason. That way we can get both the splice connectors through. Okay, now we'll take our LED light and we'll go put our butt splice connectors on with about 2 or 3 feet of wire and get it heat shrinked, and we'll get everything in, silicone hole, and we'll pop it in. We'll be done. We'll be ready for the rocker panel. That's in there. Okay, we'll take it over to the heat gun and we'll heat shrink this, and it will make a watertight seal. And you just do it, like I said, until the little clear liquid starts coming out and you know you've got it done. So there we go. So before we actually install this, let's put it on the battery and let's test it to make sure the light does work. So we'll lay it up here and let's just make sure that it does function before we do all this other. And we have light. Okay, so we're ready to install this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to push the wire in the bow. Like I said, when we cut the hole up here for the rocker panel, the wires will literally just be laying right there. Okay, now we're going to put some silicone over the hole. And on the fixture. And we'll pop the light in place. And there it is. All right, we'll go over to the other side. We'll do the exact same thing on the other side and get it installed. And as soon as we have that one in, we'll cut the hole for the rocker panel switch, and then we'll start tying in some of the wires in the main power. All right, we got the bow lights in. So now we're going to move on to the rocker panel. What I have is a 3-switch rocker panel. I couldn't find a switch panel that I liked that had the 3-way switch, but so what we're going to do is we're going to do the bow lights, the stern light, and then the interior lights. But what this has, it has a 2-port USB port for charging, and it also has a 12-volt inlet for accessories and charging as well. So, and everything's waterproof. Don't remember the brand name. I picked this up off at Walmart.com. You can buy these pretty much anywhere. But we've got it ready to go. Got the fusible link. What we're going to do now is we're going to cut out the panel, and I made a template and the temp plate, drew it out, and we're going to take a hole saw and we'll cut the 2 circular saws for these, which have to be rounded. And I'm probably going to cut these ears off a little bit, and then we'll cut out the hole. I also want to show you something real quick before we do. On the next video, when we tie all this in and finish this up and we install the graph, but on the next video I made these waterproof compartments for the boat. I don't use rod holders, so these rod holders here were just kind of useless for me. So what I did is bought deck inspection plates and added the can, and I'll get into a little more detail of how I put these together and what I use, but cut this hole out so we will have waterproof compartments to store, you know, valuables like your, you know, your driver's license, keys, and cell phone, stuff like that. It'll be watertight. But anyway, we'll get into that on the next video. So let's get finished up on the wiring. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cut out the access, and then we'll tie in the wiring and test everything. And we're going to end that video there. Then we'll come back and we'll get ready for the graph installation. So let's get started. Okay, what I got is a hole saw that I'm going to drill out the rounded areas. We'll go ahead and make a hole. Okay, now what we need to do to make sure so we can do our jigsaw right, we're going to drill 2 large holes here with just a regular drill bit, and then we'll take the jigsaw and we'll cut into those holes. But it also will create a slightly rounded hole. 90-degree angles are really bad on plastic because it'll crack. It gives it a place to crack just like metal. You want to try to make sure that you use a rounded hole, one just big enough to get the jigsaw bit in. We'll do it right in that corner. Okay, and we got a cut. This may be a little difficult. We'll get it. There we go. Right, we'll do a preliminary fit. I'm sure we'll have to do some dremeling and cleaning up. And we will. The bottom looks really nice. Need to work on the holes a little bit. And when you cut these out, now be sure you just take your time with the Dremel. Don't get in a rush. That's a plastic locking ring. So what I did, I just took my razor knife and just trimmed off a couple of the tabs that were sticking out and kind of in the way, like so. One more tab right here in the way. Let's go ahead and remove this one. There we go. Looks good. Okay, I want to show you a little trick real quick. If you take just a normal lighter, and when you cut plastic, it leaves edges. So if you'll just take a lighter and just burn the edge, melt the edge, and literally melt the edge. What this does, it'll get rid of all the little sharp edges, plus it will seal or bond weld the plastic back, and you have a lot greater less chance of having a crack develop where you make holes. And that's anywhere you have to make a cut, a large cut. If you'll just apply that heat to that edge, it will weld that edge back together and prevent or help prevent a crack from forming. There we go. Now that edge, see a little bit there, is now sealed up and ready to install. Okay, we're going to end the video right here. This video is running a little bit long. We're going to make this in 2 parts. On the next video, we're going to come in and we're going to tie in all the wiring. We're going to install the courtesy lights that I have on each side of the boat, and we're going to install the graph. And as a bonus, I'm going to show you how I built the watertight compartments and how we're going to put those on. If you're interested in that, like I said, I don't use rod holders, so this area created a really good area for my water compartments or waterproof compartments. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the information that I gave you so far. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you'll get notifications on new videos. We'll finish up the series, and then at the end of this, I'm going to give a complete price rundown on this. But I really appreciate you watching, and I hope to see you on the water. God bless, and fish on.